MuseScore is an incredibly versatile music notation program, and given its incredibly bare-bones layout, you can be forgiven by thinking that the amount of things that you can do on it is fairly limited. In actuality, there's a ton of features that MuseScore makes readily available that I think more people should know about. I think that since the program is free and open source, it draws in a lot of younger audiences, and this in turn leads people to believe that this is much more of an amateur program because of their perceptions on the scores that it makes. However, I believe that it can not only be a great learning tool for these younger audiences, but it is also incredibly powerful as a program because of the fact that it's open source. I'm going to go over a bunch of less known features in this video to hopefully help people who are in that situation where they are a bit more amateurish and want to use MuseScore to its fullest potential possible for them. The features get more obscure and advanced as the video progresses, so if you already know the first couple, you might likely learn something new if you stick around till the end of the video. There's a dark mode that you can switch to right here in Preferences. I know that most people already know about this, but I've been asked how to switch to dark mode more than a dozen times, so I thought I'd include it right here. If you don't want to change sound fonts but you want a better piano sound, it's super easy. The mixer has a second piano sound called Mellow Yamaha Grand that sounds arguably better than the default one. You can edit staff text to accommodate for things like trumpet beats and violin pizzicato if you right-click on the selected text and click Staff Text Properties, and selecting such functions under Channel. There are other more advanced uses for channels that will be covered later in this video. If you want to select a bunch of one thing in a selection, you can easily do that by selecting the area, right-clicking one of the elements in that area that you want to filter, then selecting Select All Similar Elements in Range Selection. This feature can be used in many different ways, so feel free to experiment. You can make instrument staffs invisible super easily in the instrument list, which you can use for a number of reasons, which I'll go over right now. A lot of MuseScore users, especially the ones in the earlier community days that I remember being on the community in, would use invisible staffs to make cool sound effects such as Mollymark and Ash Boy, and you can do that by looking at these scores that are pretty popular on the website. You can also use invisible staffs to make one staff look nice while the other staff is the staff for the nice MIDI playback, and then just make the staff that's looking nice just muted, or like all the notes not played, or even the velocity 1 just so it doesn't come across. I've used this in multiple scores, and it's been really useful for certain things, like making percussion roll crescendos actually work, which I'll get back to later. If you don't know what sound fonts are yet, they're basically just different packs that have different sounds for the MIDI playback. You can use them to create new instrument sounds and such, but you can also make your own sound fonts with it very easily with a program called Polyphone, which I'll link in the description. I'm not going to exactly explain how to yet. I might make another tutorial for that separately, because it's kind of a little bit of a process, but basically all you need is an MP3 file, and then you can use that as a sample to like change the pitch and stuff. And then you can just apply that as a sample for different instruments and presets which are used in the different sound fonts, and it's super easy. With the release of MuseScore 3.1, you may know that dynamic change playback on long notes has finally been implemented. I'm going to go over how it works for a bit, and some things you might not know already about what you can do with it. Sometimes it can be a little bit wonky, so to get the precise playback that you want, you can edit the velocity change variable in the inspector. This allows the user to very precisely edit how much the hairpin actually affects the volume. Also, you may have noticed that now in the mixer there are new expressive variations of almost every non-percussive instrument. These must be selected for the instrument channel for the velocity change to work. This is also the reason that it is almost impossible to find sound fonts with this new dynamic change feature, which leaves a lot of us between the dilemma of having expressive instruments or good sounds. However, it's actually possible to edit sound fonts to include this feature yourself. To do this, we're going to use the same Polyphone sound font editor that I talked about before, and it's fairly simple. All you have to do is open the sound font you want to edit in the program, then under the presets list you'll need to edit all of the instruments individually for each instrument. You'll need to press this little plus button and add a CC02 breath controller, then make this little arrow up top go down, make this multiplier 800, and then in this little drop down select attenuation. I just basically copied all the modulator settings on the default MuseScore sound fonts. These might vary a little bit depending on the instrument, and I'm not an expert when it comes to this sound font stuff, so hopefully this works for most instances. It's worked for all the ones that I've used it for. Once you do this for all instruments that you want a dynamic control of, just save it or export it on the top right here if you want to convert it to a SF2 or SF3 file. Now when you open up the sound font in MuseScore, the instruments you edited in the mixer should have dynamic expression. Hopefully more sound fonts in the future include this feature and follow suit, but we'll find out, I guess. Going back to channels, it's possible to make your own channels and even new instruments. If you navigate in the Windows Explorer to your instruments.xml file, which is basically just in your MuseScore 3 directory under Instruments folder, but if it's not, you can find what XML you're using by just going to Edit Preferences Score, and then it'll show you the Instruments files directory right there. But either way, if you open that XML file with Notepad++ or some other source code editor, you can practically have infinite possibilities in the instruments list. Essentially everything that shows in this is basically just the instrument list. You can edit it however you want. Once you've done all of that, all you have to do is go to your preferences and then navigate to the score and select the new and improved instruments list. I use this to make a mallet percussion instrument that has different channels for the different mallet percussion instruments. I also made an extra violin channel so that you can have solo violin playback as a section. I imagine you could also use this for various extended techniques if you make or have a custom sound font with it. Like you can put the old Bode vibraphone sound font that I made a while ago and put it on a vibraphone instrument in a custom channel so that it now has extended technique and actually has playback. Other ideas that come to mind for me are things like new and exciting electric piano sounds on one keyboard for specific instruments if you have a keyboardist and want to give them an example of the sound. Or you can add that French horn and trombone mute I know you've always wanted. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Bye.